There is a silent law that begins to act the moment a man decides to contain his vital energy. It's not magic. It's observable. With every week of retention, something subtle yet undeniable changes in the way the world responds to him. It's as if the energy that once scattered in 1,000 directions begins to condense, forming a perceptible field of coherence and focus. People can't name what they see, but they feel it. They start treating him with more respect, listening more attentively, adjusting themselves to his presence. Every 7 days of discipline become an invisible multiplier of his social influence. Every week you retain your energy, the world begins to read you differently, not because you've changed what you say, but because you've changed what you are. The restless man dissolves, and in his place rises a presence that commands attention without noise. This is not superstition. It's psychology and spirit intertwining. In a culture that worships distraction and drains men of purpose, you're here to rebuild the architecture of your own power, to learn the hidden law that for every week of retention, life treats you twice as real, twice as focused, twice as magnetic. You are not here for entertainment. You are here for initiation. Stay until the end, because in this video, I will reveal why the energy you withhold becomes the respect you receive. Subscribe to Gods of Semen, activate the bell, and join the movement toward 25,000 awakened men who refuse to waste their divine essence. Each video is a step in your spiritual reconstruction, a key in the great work of remembering what a man truly is. At the first level of this transformation, what happens is purely energetic. The mind stops oscillating between distractions and begins to align with the body. The gaze grows steadier, the rhythm of speech slows down, and gestures that once revealed anxiety now express intention. There's no external training for this. It's the natural consequence of redirected psychic energy. Jung called this force libido, not just in a sexual sense, but as the essential fuel behind all creation and willpower. When a man doesn't waste this energy, it re-emerges on the surface in another form, presence. And it's precisely this presence that the world reads as leadership. The human brain, wired to detect signs of stability and purpose, reacts to these micro-signals unconsciously. The same person who once spoke and went unheard is now perceived as more serious, more grounded, more trustworthy. That's the twice as much of the first week, not a literal doubling, but a perceptual leap. Replies come faster, eye contact lasts longer, and doors that once resisted begin to open naturally. The mistake is to interpret this effect as mystical or supernatural. It's a predictable behavioral progression. Constant self-control sends out signals of coherence, and coherence is a shortcut to trust. Just as an investor values an asset for its consistent performance, people evaluate other humans through small indicators of emotional stability and directed energy. 1 week of retention is just a sample of that pattern. 2, 3, 4 weeks create an exponential curve of perception. This structure aligns perfectly with current male development movements, monk mode, nofap, and the hunger for visible proof of progress. Modern men are tired of vague theories. They want tangible signs of evolution. The social multiplier gives exactly that, a symbolic yet verifiable ruler to measure the growing influence that comes from self-mastery. And that's where retention stops being mere abstinence and becomes strategy. Each week, what really multiplies isn't the energy itself, it's how that energy manifests. Focus, posture, voice, gaze, boundaries. These are the signals that build reputation and authority. At its core, the multiplier isn't about how much you hold in, it's about how much purpose you transmit through your disciplined economy of energy. This is the foundation of the journey. The rule of the social multiplier per week is a map of self-knowledge disguised as a social phenomenon, a reminder that every drop of redirected energy creates visible ripples in the human field around you. The progression doesn't happen outside, it happens within, and the world simply mirrors the degree of order you establish inside yourself. The first week of semen retention rarely looks impressive from the outside, but it's the most critical phase. It's where the internal rewiring begins. During this time, the body and mind experience a form of detox that most men underestimate. The overstimulation from screens, shallow pleasures, and scattered dopamine starts to fade, and in that silence, the system begins to recalibrate. You may feel restless or fatigued at first. That's not weakness. It's withdrawal from chaos. The foundation of the invisible reset lies in removing what leaks your energy daily. Every scroll, Every unnecessary conversation, every fantasy is a valve that slowly drains you. When you close those valves, energy doesn't just stay, it gathers. Your sleep improves, hydration becomes crucial, and the mind begins to stabilize. This week is about creating space for strength to accumulate again. The process feels invisible because the outer world hasn't caught up yet, but the seed of change is already planted. Soon, subtle signs start to appear. Your posture begins to align naturally, shoulders pulled back, chin leveled, breathing deeper. The body intuitively mirrors the mind's newfound discipline. Even your eyes begin to hold steadier contact. There's less wandering, less avoidance. The voice, once uncertain or rushed, slows down, gains gravity. It's not confidence yet, it's calm. That calm becomes the first signal people subconsciously register. You may notice that in conversations, people start listening a bit longer before interrupting. They sense something different, not louder or more dominant, but anchored. You project predictability, and predictability breeds trust. That's the first external layer of transformation, being perceived as safe, reliable, composed. This isn't charisma yet, it's the soil from which charisma grows. To consolidate this foundation, the key is ritual. Each day, reserve 10 minutes for silence and breath. Sit still, no music, no distractions. Let the nervous system find its rhythm again. Follow this with a brief journal entry answering a single question. Where did my energy go today? This practice transforms retention from an act of willpower into a science of awareness. It trains you to see patterns. Who drains you? What triggers you? Where your strength dissolves unnoticed. The first week is not about mastery. It's about noticing. It's about cleaning the static so you can hear your own internal frequency. The external rewards, the respect, the magnetism, the twice as, come later. But without this invisible reset, they never last. Every empire of presence begins here, in the quiet space where a man first decides to stop scattering himself and starts gathering his light. By the second and third week, the invisible groundwork begins to crystallize into something visible. The body, the mind, and the spirit start to align, and people begin to sense it before you say a word. Your energy no longer leaks in random directions. It moves forward, steadily, like a current with purpose. This is the stage where your presence begins to feel organized, structured, dependable. Others can't explain it, but they feel safer when you're around. The first manifestation of this phase is consistency. You start doing what you said you would do. You show up on time, complete tasks, and follow through with your own word. In a world addicted to excuses, this alone becomes a mark of status. People begin to rely on you not because you demand respect, but because you project reliability. Even small acts, waking up on schedule, keeping your space tidy, replying with clarity, become social signals of strength. Every routine completed with discipline is like armor added to your reputation. Your communication also transforms. You stop rushing to fill silence with words. You use pauses intentionally. You speak with rhythm, not desperation. This creates a psychological effect known as the authority pause. People lean in to fill the silence you control. Words that once scattered now land with weight. You don't need to raise your voice. Presence amplifies it for you. Every statement feels considered, and that deliberation is read as leadership. Physically, this stage refines your external markers. The facial muscles tighten subtly, forming a more defined expression. Your eyes hold steady contact for 2 to 3 seconds, enough to signal awareness without aggression. The tone of your voice stabilizes. The fluctuations of nervousness fade, replaced by a steady cadence. Even your breathing rhythm sends signals of composure to those around you. You're not acting. Your nervous system is simply calmer, and that calm transmits itself to the room. Socially, the results begin to compound. Colleagues and acquaintances respond faster to your messages. Invitations shift from distractions to opportunities. People begin asking for your input in decisions they once made alone. You'll notice that your time is treated with more value, not because you asked for it, but because your energy implies it deserves respect. This is the first real X2. You've become twice as trusted, twice as heard, twice as prioritized. There is a knowledge the world tried to hide from men, the raw power of sexual energy when stored, refined, and transformed into creative force. Stored sex. The code of raw, masculine energy is the complete manual of that lost art. Over 170 pages, across 8 deep modules, It reveals activation phrases, spiritual practices, and retention rituals designed to rebuild your energetic body and awaken the virility buried beneath addiction and distraction. Each page is an initiation, each exercise a return to your divine nature. If you feel it's time to reclaim your strength and channel your desire into power, this is your path. Go to the link in the description or pinned comment and claim the exclusive promotion for the first 10 initiates. And yet the true power of this stage lies in subtlety. Nothing about you screams for attention. It's the quiet reliability that magnetizes others. You're no longer just being noticed, you're being counted on. That's the point where retention begins to transmute into leadership. The key now is to maintain this momentum. Stay consistent. Keep your daily rituals intact. Observe how small improvements, your sleep, your tone, your posture, cascade into social consequences. The aura of reliability is not a performance. It's a broadcast of inner order. And from this order, every higher form of influence will begin to emerge. Around the 4th to 6th week, the transformation becomes undeniable. What once felt like discipline now feels natural, almost effortless. You begin to conserve energy without even thinking about it. The need to explain yourself, to prove your worth, or to seek validation fades quietly. The absence of those small leaks creates a kind of still power, what others perceive as magnetism. It's not charm in the conventional sense, it's gravity. This is the phase of energy economy. You no longer invest attention into every impulse or distraction. The mind learns to say no without inner debate. That reclaimed attention becomes fuel for higher concentration, deeper work, sharper intuition. Your days begin to flow around purpose instead of craving. You start solving problems faster, completing what you start, and taking ownership without resistance. People notice that when things get complicated, you don't panic, you act. That calm competence becomes your new social currency. In group dynamics, others instinctively look to you for direction even if you never ask for the role. You've become the one who gets things done. Reliability has matured into authority. This is the second X2. Your social credibility doubling again, now grounded in visible performance. Compliments change tone. They're no longer about your potential, but your results. He handles things. He's different. He's focused. These phrases start orbiting your name. On a physical level, retention refines your expression further. Your eyes gain a depth that communicates certainty. Your voice carries a natural weight that silences noise. There's a slight glow in the skin, a density in posture, a fragrance that shifts subtly with hormonal balance. None of this is mystical. It's physiology aligning with purpose. Your coherence becomes visible in gestures, tone, and rhythm. It's as if your body itself is now speaking the same language as your intent. This coherence creates a kind of subtle attraction. People, especially women, start sensing predictability in you. You're not erratic, not desperate for attention. That stability reads as safety, and safety, paradoxically, becomes magnetic. Your energy says, I'm grounded, not chasing. That's why you'll notice new glances, longer conversations, unspoken curiosity. It's not manipulation, it's resonance. You've become the opposite of chaos in a world addicted to it. But with attention comes testing. Some will subtly challenge your calm, trying to see if it's real. Old patterns and distractions will attempt to pull you back into noise. Here, humor becomes your shield. Don't defend, don't over-explain, smile through the tests. Each time you maintain balance, you reinforce the message. Your energy is not up for negotiation. These weeks define the pivot from retention as practice to retention as embodiment. You no longer think about holding your energy. You are your energy, directed and deliberate. The magnetism others feel isn't a trick. It's simply what happens when focus replaces fragmentation. You are becoming twice as respected, twice as trusted, twice as followed. Not because of words, but because your silence speaks louder than most people's noise. By the 7th to 9th week, something profound begins to happen. Your energy stops being reactive and becomes directive. You're no longer just managing impulses. You're shaping reality with clarity. The field around you thickens, not in a mystical way, but through a combination of discipline, confidence, and decisiveness. People start to look at you differently, not just as someone consistent, but as someone who leads without trying. This stage is defined by clarity of decision-making. You start choosing with conviction, not hesitation. The endless inner debates that once consumed you lose their grip. When a thought appears, you process it quickly and act with precision. That ability to decide, calmly and consistently, creates psychological safety in others. They sense you know where you're going, and human nature gravitates toward direction. Leadership begins here, not with control, but with composure. It's also at this point that imitation begins. Without realizing it, people start copying your habits, your routines, your tone. You might overhear someone adopting your phrases or your way of structuring ideas. This isn't flattery. It's evidence that your frequency has become strong enough to influence others subconsciously. Jung would describe this as the libido expressing itself as creative will. Your energy no longer leaks into desire. It radiates through influence. Socially, your capital increases. Invitations shift from casual to strategic. You're no longer being asked to participate. You're being asked to guide. Colleagues, friends, even superiors begin to value your perspective as if it carries extra weight. People start consulting you for clarity, for grounding, for balance. This is the third X2, when retention matures into social gravity. You're now treated as twice the leader, twice the advisor, twice the anchor. At this stage, respect also begins to refine itself. It's no longer about fear or admiration. It's about boundaries. You develop a natural ease in saying no, and that single word begins to shape your reputation. The refusal to overextend yourself sends the message that your time and attention are sacred. Ironically, the more you protect your space, the more people value it. You stop chasing opportunities and start selecting them, which makes those opportunities multiply. Internally, the signs of progress are measurable. Focus blocks extend beyond an hour without effort. Reading becomes immersive again. Distractions lose their appeal. You'll find yourself absorbing information faster, remembering more, connecting ideas with precision. The mental fog of earlier weeks clears, replaced by a steady hum of alertness. What others interpret as charisma is actually this heightened state of coherence, the mind and body moving as one organism, powered by retained life force. Quiet leadership is not about commanding, it's about emanating. You don't speak more, you speak less, but every word lands. You don't act impulsively, you act intentionally. People follow not because you demand it, but because your order of being calls something ordered within them. This is when semen retention transcends self-discipline and becomes a form of silent teaching. By week 9, the social landscape has changed around you. You're no longer the man trying to prove his worth. You've become the standard others measure themselves against. Every interaction begins to echo your new equilibrium. You are now the example of what controlled energy looks like, a quiet force that doubles its influence without ever raising its voice. By the 10th week, the transformation has crossed the threshold from habit to identity. Retention no longer feels like something you do, it's something you are. The discipline that once required effort now flows like instinct. You wake up grounded, alert, and silently powerful. This is the phase of crystallization, where energy, mind, and purpose merge into a single current. You've become unshakable not because life got easier, but because your internal order stopped depending on it. There are books you read, and there are books that initiate you. Alchemy of the Gods is not a theory, it's a portal. Within its pages, the dormant fire of Kundalini begins to stir. The crystalline oil, that sacred secretion of the awakened mind, starts to rise, and the process of spiritual liberation unfolds, cell by cell, thought by thought. This is the path that ancient adepts hid in symbols, and now it's been unveiled in a form every seeker can touch, physical, digital, and audiobook. Whether you read it, hear it, or carry it close, Alchemy of the Gods doesn't merely inform, it transforms. It burns away the illusions that kept your spirit divided and leads you toward your original architecture: clarity, power, and divine remembrance. For those ready to awaken the sleeping light within, the link in the description or pinned comment is your entry into the work. The Semen Retention Success Path audiobook has finally been released, a 2-hour immersion through the 6 sacred pillars of masculine transmutation. This is not motivation, it's instruction for inner conquest. You'll understand how to channel your retained energy into focus, purpose, and spiritual power, breaking every pattern of exhaustion and lust that has stolen your potential. It's the key that unlocks your higher discipline and returns you to your original strength. And for the first initiates who enter through the link, there's a 30% bonus discount on the ebook The Art of Semen Retention for Men, containing over 20 pages of direct, practical exercises to guide your daily transformation. Join the circle. Become a member of Gods of SEMEN. Gain early access, priority responses, and take part in the direct mission of restoring sacred masculinity to the world. Every contribution fuels the awakening of thousands of men who've chosen mastery over weakness. The most visible change during these weeks is flow. Your focus no longer needs to be forced. It arises naturally. You enter deep work blocks, 90, sometimes 120 minutes, without losing presence or direction. There's no rush, no mental friction, only precision. This state of flow is what others interpret as mastery. It's not mystical concentration. It's a nervous system finally freed from chaos, channeling every ounce of stored energy into creation. Externally, this mastery manifests as elevated opportunity. You start receiving invitations that once seemed out of reach. People of higher value circles notice your steadiness, your composure under pressure. Doors that remained closed for years open with unexpected ease. You don't chase recognition anymore. Recognition gravitates toward you. Your reputation begins to precede you. The man of presence, the one who enters a room and alters its temperature. This phenomenon is what can be called the room effect. When you walk in, conversations slow down. The tone of the environment subtly recalibrates. People wait a little longer before speaking over you. Your opinions, even when brief, gain disproportionate weight. It's not intimidation. It's the authority of someone who no longer leaks energy. The body language is calm, the gaze steady, the gestures minimal. You no longer compete for attention. Your stillness demands it. Behind this presence lies a deep sense of self-trust. You know what to do, even when uncertainty appears. The reactive patterns that once drained you have been replaced by a quiet decisiveness. This makes you appear composed even in conflict. People feel anchored in your company, and in a world drowning in anxiety, that stability becomes priceless. You've become twice as magnetic, twice as respected, twice as sought after. Not because of what you say, but because of what you don't waste. The final piece of this stage is maintenance. Energy, like wealth, must circulate with intelligence. True retention doesn't mean endless accumulation. It means conscious cycles. 12 weeks of focus should be followed by a deliberate period of rest, perhaps 1 week off, with mindful release or creative redirection. This conscious rhythm keeps the system balanced and prevents the discipline from becoming obsession. You rest not to escape the path, but to prepare for the next ascent. By the end of 12 weeks, the social multiplier has reached its full expression. What began as self-control has become command. The same people who once overlooked you now wait for your insight. The same spaces that once drained you now expand around your energy. You've become a center of gravity and motion, a man whose presence no longer depends on effort, but on essence. And when that level of internal coherence is reached, every interaction, every project, every look carries the quiet message. This is what disciplined power feels like. At the heart of the multiplier effect lies a simple but profound chain. Energy becomes signal, and signal becomes perception. Every external reaction you receive, from respect to attraction, is not random. It's feedback from the social field responding to the information your body transmits. Retention amplifies this transmission by condensing energy that used to dissipate through indulgence and distraction. Once internal coherence increases, every gesture, word, and silence begins to broadcast stability. The world merely mirrors it back to you. The first layer of this broadcast is physical: posture, gaze, and tone. Posture signals readiness. When you stand tall without stiffness, your body tells others you're centered, not defensive. Your gaze signals consciousness. Maintaining eye contact for just a few seconds communicates that your attention is sovereign, not scattered. The voice completes the triad. Its tone, rhythm, and depth act as a direct indicator of nervous system balance. These three, posture, gaze, and voice, are the front line of the aura you project. The next layer is behavioral consistency. People unconsciously measure your reliability through patterns. How you follow through, how you respond under pressure, how predictable your presence is. Consistency sends one of the rarest signals in modern society: trustworthiness. Every time you keep your word or maintain composure in conflict, you deposit credibility into the collective memory of others. That's why 1 week of focus doubles your influence. The human brain reacts to pattern integrity the same way it reacts to safety. Then come boundaries. Knowing when to say no and holding that no with calmness is perhaps the highest social signal of all. It indicates internal hierarchy. You answer to your principles, not to impulse or approval. People might resist at first, but deep down they respect what they can't control. That restraint marks you as someone guided by an internal compass, not external noise. It's this calibration that transforms libido into power. From a psychological perspective, what Jung described as libido, the raw psychic energy of desire, becomes, through sublimation, a creative and social force. When it is withheld and redirected, the same charge that once sought release through pleasure now fuels clarity, artistic expression, ambition, and leadership. The result is what others perceive as purpose. They don't consciously think, "He's retaining energy." They think, "He knows what he's doing." The shift is invisible yet unmistakable. This is where social heuristics come into play. Humans are wired to make rapid judgments based on micro-cues, the effect known as the halo bias. When your energy communicates order, people automatically assign you other positive traits: intelligence, confidence, moral integrity. That's the mechanism of the multiplier. Each week of coherence compounds the halo, until you are no longer perceived through isolated actions but through a consistent field of respect. Retention, therefore, is not about withholding for the sake of denial. It's about recalibrating the signals that shape your social reality. The more energy you preserve and direct, the clearer those signals become. The clearer the signals, the faster the world reorganizes around you. Energy creates the signal. The signal shapes perception. Perception opens the doors that were once closed. By understanding this mechanism, you stop chasing reactions and start mastering transmission. You become intentional with what you project, how you move, how you look, how you speak, how you pause. And when that intentionality merges with retained energy, your influence multiplies not by force but by resonance. You no longer demand recognition. You emanate it. That is the secret behind every X2. Every man reaches a threshold where he must choose: remain where comfort numbs the soul, or cross into the silence where strength is born. The knowledge has found you. It won't wait forever. If something in you stirred, seal this moment. Leave your mark with a like, subscribe, and activate the bell, and continue the path in the next video. Your initiation doesn't end here. It deepens with every step you take.